How's it going, YouTube? Coming today with another video, and today, guys, what the bring you is going to be a very special video. It's going to be a complete guide to Kewl. Now, this deck is really going to be crazy next format. We have a lot to talk about today, and today I brought along a friend. I have Brandon Freeman, who just went undefeated at the South Park Regional. So, what did you do that day? And, if you want to give any shout outs before we get started here, and, your time in the game, what you've accomplished.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? So I took the Cooltoon deck to the South Park Regional this past weekend, and I will say that the deck right now it's pretty like I would say like it's not up there with like the best decks, which is like Draco Tail branded and VSK9, and then the Yummy Piles. But I just wanted to take this deck because the deck's gonna be a stellar deck. It's gonna be tier one. uh, all these cards, everybody's gonna get tired of them. I know it, but I think this deck's like so unique in its way, and that's took it to the regional and went undefeated with it. So yeah,
Any kind of shout outs that you want to give?
yeah. So shout out to the boys that I test with, Clips Gaming. Those are all the homies. Shout out to actually Top Deck Cards and Games, which is the people who hosted the regional. That's one of my locals. And then shout out to the boys at Green Tree Sports Cards, which is my other locals.
And you said you're making a YouTube soon?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about starting a YouTube now since I'm starting to get more tops into the game. It's gonna be APO YGO.
And then what kind of other tops do you have in the game at the moment?
Yeah, so I have a couple top eights for regionals. I have two first places for regionals. One of them was in Snake Eye Fire King format, and then the other one was just now with Cooltoon in this format. And then also top 64 in nationals last year with Pure Vanquish Soul.
Excellent. Yeah, no, definitely a very cool deck in its own regard too. Vanquish Soul has definitely come and gone as being very low powered, very overpowered. So definitely interested to see what this next ban list does to that.
Yeah, for sure. I think people are just getting tired of it. They brought back Raisin and Steak to 3, but I still am getting Holy Suit in my turn. So yeah,
Still an issue.
yeah, for sure.
If you want to check out Brandon's deck profile, definitely go over to Pie for Life Games and check out his deck profile over there. But also, go ahead and check out the sponsors over on Gem, Cloud, Arla, Imperium, Dragonshield, RW, MainPhaze, and Grimoire down below in the description. Check out my METAFY for some one-on-one coaching, and then also subscribe to the channel so we can hit 30,000. Without further ado, I appreciate each and every one of you, and let's hop right into the content. So, for the first wave of support, we're going to be going through kind of card by card. If you want to group them together as one like talking point, however you want to go about it. These cards are the initial wave support that we got out of Phantom Revenge, and these have already done pretty well for themselves. Especially you just went undefeated at the regional. If you kind of would want to go over like the use case for these cards and what each one can really do for the deck, starting with Rico and Mix.
Yeah, so Rico and Mix are like the two main bread and butter level 3 and level 2 combo you want to use for making your synchros, excluding Trackmaker, of course. But so Rico is normal or special. It adds any cool tune except a level 3, which right now we only think it can add is Mix and Clip. But once we get into Blazing Dominion, we have Rotary, of course, which Rotary solves a lot of problems. And then Rico, whenever it's sent to graveyard, which is important because of certain cards like Di-Fi and Dimension Shifter, it can target a spell or trap on field and destroy it. And then Mix is like the level 2 counterpart. Same thing, normal or special. It can add any cool tune except a level 2. So you can add Q and Rico. And then same thing, whenever it's used as Synchro material, it can target a monster on the field and destroy it. So there's two like main level 5s that you can use these both for because they have to be used specifically for them, which is Cooltoon RS and Cooltoon Remix, which we'll get to those later on. But having these two both as an interruption sometimes is actually really powerful to stop plays.
Do you feel like people forget about these a lot when you go to like use them as an interruption?
So I think that people like they know about them, but like the way that like chain links works usually like confuses people because you summon them on the chain link that you were on, and then their trigger effects happen on a new chain, which like against like Draco Tail, if you know your opponent is going to be setting like they used Rahu to get their first fusion out, if you chain like say like the quick play spell or Q or remix and you use Rico to summon another Synchro, whenever they set their Ketu, if that's their only play to fuse, your Rico popping it is actually a really good choke point for that. And it could be the same thing for like Yummy whenever you pop their minion if they only have one name in hand.
Yeah, no, it can definitely be very awkward. I love cards with like not necessarily hidden text, but like hidden text. You know, people just forget about the fact that things have more than one effect nowadays. Talking about Clip and Q, how do these really play into the deck?
So Q, we're going to start with Clip right now. Clip is the basically the best way to explain it is a Femena for the deck, and to further explain on that is during your opponent's main phase, whenever it's a quick effect, you can activate it in hand. It will special itself, and then immediately after, you can choose to synchro summon. And the cool thing about it is that you don't have to use Clip for the synchro summon. So you can summon her and say that you have like a Rico on field. You can use the Rico on field with the Clip, or you can use the Rico, and then since it has the line of text that Cooltoon has, you can use a mix in hand with that Rico to get 2 interruptions off of that just by summoning it. And then Clip also has an effect of when it's used as synchro material, you randomly banish a card from your opponent's extra deck face up. And then sometimes this comes up a lot if you want to get free knowledge game 1 if you go first. If you start with Mix and you already have Clip in hand, that's your track maker, and then you also get to banish a card face up. And then sometimes you can hit either the generic cards like Zeus, Typhon, SP Little Knight, or you're going to hit engine cards, and then you have a better game plan of like what you're going to have to set up to stop them.
Yeah, that's really powerful to have. Knowledge is king.
Yeah, for sure. And then Q is the best one card starter right now, pre Blazing Dominion. She's only on normal summon though, so I think that's like the little like fail safe of like, hey, we can't make these cards so broken. She's when you normal summon her, she can special tuner from hand, deck, or graveyard. And this isn't locked to a certain kind of tuner. You can special summon your track maker back. You can special summon your Zelen back that was removed from the field. You can special summon also Red Nova, which that makes her the one card combo going first, which is very good right now.
Do you think Red Nova is just like the craziest card in this deck? Because I remember when that card was like hyped up, and that was like a really expensive card.
Right now, Red Nova is very good for the deck, but post Blazing Dominion, you actually, in my opinion, you don't need it at all. Your deck gets so consistent with the new level 1, I don't think there's any reason to play that card, because you have to see it in hand for it to be viable, and it's a one of, which
Sure.
I don't think, there's no reason to play it. But Q also has the same thing. When it's used as synchro material, you actually excavate the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. You can choose to banish one, and then the other card you can either choose to put on the top of the deck or the bottom. So essentially, you're stacking their deck and you're trying to hit their important key card, like one card that they need. Like for example, against Draco Tail, if they're on like a big branded package and you hit their Fallen of Albaz, it's very good because that means their Ecclesia is essentially not a interruption, and then their Incredible Ecclesia, which is the main deck monster, is also just summoning Cartasia or Fallen of White.
Right. Well, that's pretty good. A lot of very unique effects. You know, we've seen these spread out across a couple different decks, but seeing them all in one, being able to manipulate a lot of things here is going to be really good for the deck for sure.
Yeah. No, I think the thing that people are going to get most annoyed with this deck is that for some reason Konami said, "Hey, we're going to take like the annoying parts of the past like best decks and just put it into one." You have the Femena, you have basically Kashtira Unicorn, and then you also just get to look at your opponent's hand with the upcoming support, which is insane.
Yeah, no, I definitely read that one too, and I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy. And talking about kind of crazy, like we have some pretty good spell cards to this deck too. If we want to go over these real quick.
Yeah, for sure. So Cooltoon Synchro, this quick play is everything. This card is literally the backbone of this deck. It is up to twice per turn. Don't know why. Don't ask me. You can activate it during the draw phase too. So it beats Droll. You can add a Cooltoon card, so you can even act the other spell, JJ Cooltoon, or if you're playing it, the Trap Cooltoon playlist. And then immediately after it resolves, you can choose to synchro summon with monsters on your field. And so with that, it just opening like 2 of these is like You could activate one in draw phase, and then your opponent ashes it. It's like, cool, activate another one. Now we got a hand trap out of there, and we're still doing combo. And then also setting these cards on your opponent's turn, you just get to add whatever answer you need. If it's mix, Rico. If you want to look at their hand, you can add rotary. Like, you can choose which synchro you want to make and what interruption you want to have instantly. It's just a very good card. The field spell, I think this is the second best card in the deck. But of course, whenever Blazing Dominion comes out, this card gets pushed back to probably the third or fourth best card in the deck. So whenever you activate this card, it doesn't do anything, of course, but it gives you an additional normal summon of a tuner. That's very good right now because early interruption, like on your normal summon, it sometimes stops your play because you need a body to stick to the field. It also comes with the effect of what is it? Loudness War, which is the big level 6 synchro that's 3k. We'll get to that guy too. It gives him 3,300 attack if your opponent has a tuner on field or in grave. Very good card. You can tribute a tuner as well from field. You can either add to hand or special summon a cool tune monster from your deck. This comes up a lot on Crackback because there's sometimes where you can't have guaranteed follow-up. If they don't remove that field spell, you can use your additional normal on a tuner, like any tuner, hand trap, whatever. You could tribute that tuner, and then you can add Q, or you can special mix to add back Q from grave if you've already went through them. This card just does a million things for your deck, and honestly, I've played multiple whenever I would go second and go first. The card just adds so much forms of like extension into the play, and I think that's one of the best benefits that I had for the regional last week.
Yeah, just besides the absolute power that comes behind these two, the card art is just absolutely amazing too. So definitely a very cool deck, no pun intended. Going into the next format as well with the power upgrades. But yeah, these cards are pretty crazy just for what they offer. I do want to talk though about some of these synchros. I know we've talked about it a couple times, but there is 4 of them. So starting with Remix and Loudness, what do these do for the deck? And do you think that the new ones are going to end up being a bit better than the ones we have, or do they all serve a different purpose?
I think they all serve a different purpose, but I think the new level 10 that we get is like the icing on the cake. That card, unbelievable. But first, let's go over these two. Cool Tune Remix. This card was, in my opinion, the MVP of the synchros during this weekend. It allows you to do so many things that shouldn't be possible. So you have to use mix specifically. So with Remix and RS, like I said, they have to use specifically mix and Rico. So Remix it gains 1,500 attack while your opponent has the tuner on field or in graveyard. So randomly it just becomes 3k in matchups, which it comes up. Like you can trade with if you have a Loudness War on field, you can trade with the Arthalion. Sometimes that matters. But quick effect, you can during your opponent's turn, you can tribute this card. You can non-target special one non-synchro tuner and add one non-synchro tuner from your grave to hand. And then after it resolves, you can choose to synchro summon. The reason why this card is so great is because, say, like going first, your opponent fuas you and you have Ash. You're like, oh, now I don't have an Ash for my opponent's turn. Remix makes that available to happen. So if you go through full combo, usually not always, but you usually end on the end board of Zelen, Remix, and Clip in hand with a name. And on your opponent's draw phase or in their main phase, depending on what the matchup is, you can activate Remix and you can special back Mix and add back Ash Blossom because it doesn't have to be a Cool Tune tuner. So then you have your Ash Blossom as an interruption, which like that can't be answered unless your opponent has like Call By, Cross Out. You get Ash to use both turns, and then your Mix, which you can add Rico with, and then your Clip automatically becomes an RS with the Rico and Mix whenever you want, which is insane. Just the layers of interruption this deck has, it's going to be oppressive. Loudness War also has, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can banish one of your Cool Tune monsters in grave that has an effect that when it's synchro summon or used for a synchro summon, then copy that effect. Which that comes up a lot. Like sometimes you need that second mix pop, you need the second Rico pop, And then also you can copy Trackmaker's effect, which is a non-target bounce. The non-target bounce happening twice, it's very good in the decks that are extra deck based. And then it also has the effect that your other tuners can't be targeted and can't be destroyed by card effects. That is, with the new cards, if your opponent's playing into your board, on Crackback you should have a back-to-back on field with Loudness War and a Zelen. And then if your opponent even is still in the game at that point, they usually concede once they see those three and they try to pass. The Loudness War right now, I did play 2 of it because it came up. But once we get into Blazing Dominion, it's just going to be a one of, just so you can get extra interruptions whenever you have your back-to-back in play.
About to say, we're also going to have the Phydralis Harmonious, and you got to be able to make room for things in the extra deck too. Did you have problems with that, or are you just playing like pretty generic targets?
It's so with Harmonia, there's only like 3 main targets. It's what is it? The Packbit Synchro, Wind Pegasus Ad Ignister, and then the Malong Synchro 6. Those are the main 3 that you play. Anything else, like I didn't really have trouble with making like room for it, just because the extra deck's so wide.
Sure. Yeah, I know the Malong, I think the Ultra is now like $10. So it's up there.
The super rare Wind Pegasus, whenever I looked like 2 days ago, was $30, which is unreal.
Yeah, no, people are looking out for the tier 1 format, you know. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And then talking about the last bits of like the original support, right? We have Trackmaker and RS. We've talked about them a lot already, but if we want to go through these effects real quick.
Yeah, for sure. So Trackmaker is your best synchro for going first if you have a way to a level 4. So if this card would be used as synchro material, you can use one from hand. That's the only synchro that has that effect, which honestly I'm glad that it does, because if RS, Remix, Loudness War, all of them had that, I feel like it'd get even more dumb. But when this card is when this card is special summoned, so that's a key point too. If you special this from Grave off of Q, it also gets this effect to search, which it searches any Cool Tune card. It's a very good searcher, and it usually is chain blocked by Q or Clip. So usually there's nothing that really stops it unless your opponent has like Valor Imperm. And then if this card is sent to graveyard as synchro material, you can return 1 card your opponent controls to their hand. That's probably one of the best graveyard effects for this deck for synchro materials.
Yeah, not being restricted to monsters is huge.
Yeah. It's going to get really good whenever Doom Z comes around with the equip spells. It's really strong for stopping the effects.
All right, and then we have our last one here, which is going to be RS.
Yeah, so RS is like one of your main cards using for your opponent for interruption. So this is the one that specifically takes Rico plus a tuner, and then its first line of text gains 300 attack for each tuner in the graveyards. This card gets huge really fast. Going through like your regular combo, if you make an RS, this card is usually at like 3k to 4k already.
So what you're saying is lethal is not a problem.
No, it's not a problem, especially with back-to-back. Back-to-back, for some reason, has a line that says your tuners can attack twice. So this thing is going to be 4k attacking twice. No one knows why. I don't know. It also has a floodgate effect of the levels of monsters your opponent controls with 1700 or less original attack are increased by 1. So the yummy names, even under Minion, whenever they get huge, are still level 2. So it's really awkward for your opponent to synchro summon with Snatchy. And then also, during the MainPhaze quick effect, you can banish a tuner from your graveyard. So it can be any tuner, like your hand traps that don't matter anymore, or like Remix. You can target a card on field, negate its effects until the end of the turn. That is probably one of the best effects in the game for this deck. Like you can target spells, you can target monsters in the pendulum scale, you can target field spells, anything. The negate comes up a lot, and I absolutely love this card.
So we have a lot of really solid effects, especially RS. That card is pretty crazy for what it does, and the Stygian Dirge-esque effect is definitely very cool. That's going to mess with quite a few decks, and even now, like you said, Yummy, that's got to be a nightmare. But we do get back-to-back and Crackle. So let's start talking about these two and what the new format is going to bring for the deck.
The, these cards are this and the new main deck is what makes the deck broken. So Cool Tune Back to Back is a tuner plus a synchro monster. So it's the same materials as Zelen, which Zelen is another broken card in this deck. So the levels of all of monsters your opponent controls are increased by 2. That's just a floodgate effect. Like there's no like, oh, it has to be a certain attack. They're just increased by 2. So they're already floodgated off of RS. This is another floodgate if you have both of them, so they're 3 levels above. Your tuners can make a second attack during each battle phase, so OTKing with this card with Cool Tune Synchro, not a problem. When your opponent activates a card or when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can target one tuner in grave or banishment, special summon it, or add it to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can synchro summon for a synchro monster. So the cool thing about this is, no pun intended, you can make non-tuners, which actually comes up, which in the OCG right now, people are putting in Chaos Angel into their deck because if they look at your hand and they say, there's no way you can stop a Chaos Angel, they just summon it light and dark in defense, and then you can't remove any of the synchros that they have on field. That's kind of like checkmating people right now in the OCG.
That's not bad.
No, and then for some reason this card's 3,200 attack, so this card's also just swinging over big monsters for no reason.
Yeah, so I mean, this thing can also just attack twice. It's 6,400 just right away.
Yeah. And then now for the Cool Tune Crackle. This card is, I think if there's a card that you can point that's going to basically do crimes in the format is this one. So this one is specific to Clip, which is the level 2 that special summons itself during your opponent's main phase. So if this card is synchro summoned, you can look at your opponent's extra deck. If you do, banish face up one card from it during the end phase. Then you make this card gain attack equal to that monster's attack. So we get a cash tier or unicorn on summon whenever we use Clip. So you could use Clip Rico and then pop one of their spells, rip one from their deck blindly that's permanently banished, and then also look through it. Like that's free information of the extra deck is everything. Like Cash Tier Unicorn was such a problem whenever all these decks had such tight extra decks. And then it also has when this card is sent to graveyard. So if it's just removed from the field, you can special summon this card, then apply this effect. You get to look through your opponent's extra deck again, but banish 2 face up until the end of the turn. So essentially, you get to rip 4 from your opponent's extra deck. 3 of them are temporarily until end of turn, and then sometimes that just ends people's turns.
So with the back-to-back's main effect here, like the floodgate effect, does that just make the mirror abysmal?
It doesn't. I don't think it's really the fact of the floodgate making it super hard. It's the fact that this deck has its own counter of removing their first card on the field very well, and then once they extend, then that floodgate comes up. Because like making your Rico level 5 is really awkward. There's nothing you can really make except Loudness War with a rotary in hand, but like that doesn't seem like it's gonna do anything for you. And
Sure.
then the removal of like the field spell and then negating Cool Tune Synchro, it's just like this matchup's gonna be die roll or it's gonna be who opened more hand traps. That's what I think.
Do you think it could be even better with some breakers, or you think they matter less?
I don't think breakers is the correct approach with this deck post Blazing Dominion because like your whole deck is just like your hand traps or interruption plus also extension. Like it's going to come up a lot where like your opponent stops your normal summon, and then you'll have like rotary in hand plus an Ash Blossom, and you can go rotary effect, reveal Ash, you additional normal rotary, and then you just make Track Maker and go off.
It's
Like
fair.
it's just going to be a fight of like playing around hand traps that you don't know until you know, which like looking at your opponent's hand with rotary.
How do you feel like the deck deals with something like Nib?
So right now, the way that the deck deals with Nib is with Zelen, which is the generic synchro for the deck. Which with the combo now, you basically add you can if you think your opponent's on Nib, you can add 2 Cool Tune Synchros through your combo with Trackmaker and Rotary,
Hmm.
and you can use one during your turn. And then you hold the other one in hand, and then you go and you try to attempt to leave main. And if your opponent activates Nib, you can chain the Cool Tune Synchro, and then ask your opponent, do they have a response? If they don't, then you chain Zelen to negate the Nibiru, and then you can just add any card for an additional interruption.
That's pretty wild. But
It's insane.
in that scenario, if let's say that they go Nib, you change Synchro, and they change something else, that's just a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, 100%. But it's also the fact that like I don't think Nib is going to be. I don't think it's going to be main decked. I think it's going to be probably side decked here in the TCG at the beginning. But I think people are then going to move off of it to like try to play more of like more towards like Harmonia, and then also playing like more of the Frame package. I think that that's going to come back a lot.
Gotcha. And we keep talking about it too, so we might as well talk about it here. This can be Rotary. So I mean, this is the new main deck one. How do we feel about it?
This card solves all the problems the deck has currently. This card is amazing. So this can be added by Mix or Rico, or it can be special summoned by Q. Like this card, you're getting to it one way or another, or you're just hard opening it. So if this
Sure.
card on field would be used to Synchro material, of course, you can use one for hand. Uh, you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. You can reveal this card in your hand and one tuner. Immediately after this resolves, normal summon a tuner, which that's great. Your opponent has interruption for your first normal summon, you have extension. You have this for extension, and then you have your field spell for extension. We have 3 ways to normal summon in this deck, which is so you have those and Synchro Overtake. This deck can push through a million things if it opens all engine. And then if this card is used as Synchro material, you can activate one of these effects. You can either place a card from your opponent's graveyard to the bottom of the deck, which that comes up a lot in certain matchups, or you can look at your opponent's hand. Then you can add a Cool Tune spell or trap from your deck to your hand. This this effect did not need that first line. Look at your opponent's hand. Why did we put K9 Noroi onto a level 1 tuner? I will never understand it.
Yeah.
You get to know what they draw, you get to know what's in their hand, and you get to know what's in their extra deck. There's no such thing as private information against this deck if they go full combo.
That is kind of crazy because they printed like the one Marinsa's card, and we're like, surely that won't be a thing, right? And then here we are.
Yeah, but there's also a fun fact with this card. So, if it's used as Synchro material and your opponent has no cards in their hand, you can't use the effect to search, because there has to be something you can look at for you to search a card. So, I don't know if that's going to be coming up a lot. I know the only deck that can actually do that for going first is Enneacraft, which they get that new Spider card, which is insane. Which that card's actually a problem against this deck. But Rotary is the answer to all this deck's problems, and I want to say I'm so glad they printed it, but at the same time, this card's obnoxious.
Oh, absolutely. I agree completely. I did not need to look at your opponent's hand text, but here we are. So you just got first place. You went undefeated at South Park, which is amazing. This is the deck list that you had used. We're probably not going to spend too much time because we're going to go through some questions about your weekend event, and then we're going to go into the next format deck list, which I know a lot of people are looking forward to because Blazing Dominion is right around the corner. So do you have any thoughts after the event on things that you potentially changed in your deck list, something that didn't really work out or something that like overperformed?
So, changes for the deck, the only thing I could see is probably the siding pattern. I was more trying to side for the VS K9 matchup, which I thought was my hardest. But then I realized, like, hey, I don't really have that many good going first cards against the Draco Tail matchup. So I think I would probably cut I'd probably cut one of the Lightning Storms and the Thrust. The Thrust didn't really come up, but in theory, it felt correct. Where putting it in, going second against like the Yummy piles where they didn't have like a true Omni Negate, so I could search like Synchro Overtake or Lightning Storm if it came up. Unironically, I'd probably put Di-Fis in, because like you can make your full board against them, and if they don't find mana you can just activate Di-Fi. Like Di-Fi with RS on field, Like you're the only thing that answers that is they either Arthaline or not Arthaline. They either fall into Virtuous, which like they have to do it on activation, but you're going first. There's no like true answer to it unless they like side in like MST, like back row hate, etc. Which like Draco Tail wasn't playing back row hate whatsoever.
Talking about some of your matchups, what did you play against? What did you struggle against? What do you think is like a bad matchup, and what's a really good matchup?
So matchup wise, mostly I played against four matchups of branded Draco Tail.
Okay.
And to be honest, I think that was the most uphill battle because the problem that you have going into the deck is that whenever they try to break the board, for some reason their cards also say, "Hey, in end phase, I get to like set Fallen of Virtuous, or I get to add Branded Fusion, or I get to summon Fallen of White." And it's like you have to use all your interruptions to stop them from making a board, but then the deck has like a MainPhaze 3, and then if you don't have anything to stop that, you're kind of in the water. Like Fallen of Albaz in end phase to like make Mirror Jade is it's like so oppressive. And then all the other matchups was like I only played I played against one Yummy Radiant Typhoon Tri Brigade, one VS K9 which was final round, one Malice. That it's just scary against that matchup because like Impulse, like jump scare Impulse is very good against this deck because like it stops your searches and it stops your Q and your remix. And then I also played against what was it? The one deck that I was not ready for, but it was super cool it was Orchist, Mitsurugi, Azamina Striker. It was just like a pile of just good stuff. But that matchup it was decided on the call of I had to clip super early whenever they Black Witch set Deception and made RS to pop their Deception while it was face down so they don't get follow up. And then their clip banished their one of Galatea Eye. So then their
Oh,
normal summon Dingirsu didn't really get anywhere.
that's crazy.
Yeah, sometimes clip just hits the best cards. Like against Malice, I banished their Heart's Cryptor 3 times. And they were like, this is unreal. And then like it also comes up where like you have to play around what you banish because if you know your opponent can't go into a certain card, they have to go into another line, which then you can make answers for. Like against like the Malice player, I banished their Heart's Cryptor, and their only last play that I knew that they had in hand was March Hare to banish the Dormouse Engrave, and I had Bell, which ended their turn, and I OTK'd them.
Absolutely. Sounds like a pretty good run for the day.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was super fun playing this deck and seeing it perform very well. I was super happy with it.
And then, do you have any like specific siding patterns that work for you? Things that were like specifically very impactful?
So the only thing that I could say with the deck is that whenever you have going first, the reason for the hand traps being two ofs is because I needed to side out the three Fuas and the three Deltas half the time. So usually against matchups like Yummy and Dracotail, I would side in the Drolls, Ogres, and Nibs. Just so like you have like a million cards to play on their turn for if your combo gets stopped. Because like there's hands where you'll draw like Q plus no way to extend, but you'll have 4 hand traps, and it's like, all right, if Q resolves, I win the game. If it doesn't, I have to throw hand traps at them, and hopefully it sticks.
Right. And you know that's pretty true for quite a few decks in the format that we've seen, where it's like we pray on the one card to go off, and if it doesn't, then you know we're hand trapping our way to victory. But
Yeah,
absolutely, no, I understand that completely. Did you like the sci frames in the deck?
I love them. The opening a psi frame, so like game ones, if I won the die roll and I opened a psi frame going first, it actually wasn't half bad because there would be times where I would have two normal summons of like Mix or Q, and if I normaled Q there and it got hand trapped, I would pass my turn, or I would make Remix, and that's like a pretty niche end board. Or if whenever you open those two normal summons and you have like a psi frame in hand, you could normal Mix to add Q, and then if they stop that, then you can use the Delta or Gamma in hand to make Track Maker for extension, And then, for example, if Mix resolved to add Q, and you make Trackmaker, and Trackmaker adds what is it? Adds the field spell, and you had a level 3 tuner in hand that like isn't really doing anything. You could make Zelen right there, activate the field spell, and then use your additional normal on Q, and then that's full combo.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's pretty cool too. I know that the Cypherans have always looked at them being in the main deck. Like, man, I don't know if those come up as much as you'd like, but yeah, that definitely makes sense that you can just use them with Engine.
Yeah, it also helps that throughout all my matches that day, I only drew driver twice.
Oh,
So
there you go.
I'm ecstatic for that.
And then, do you have a game plan for like Di-Fi, D-Ground, Soundproofed? Are these cards real to you? Do you think we're gonna see them?
This is how everybody asked me about the soundproof card. They're like, "Hey, are you scared of this card? Do you think this card is going to be real?" So you have to look at it from like a wider perspective of like what decks you're going to be playing soundproof in the side, and the only ones that I can think of is like the Doom Z deck, which can play it. Uh, if it's still around, Draco Tail can play it, but like they can't make the Ecclesia Synchro, which like I feel like that's like a susceptible like loss for them if they play soundproof. But then that also means that your opponent is not on Elf Note or Cool Tune, which like I feel like that just if you're not playing those two decks next format, I feel like it's going to be uphill for you just because like their lines of play are so strong now, and so like you have many lines to go now with these new pendulum cards for Elf Note, and then also having all these new cards for Cool Tune. I, and it's also like you can play on your opponent's turn. You can like if your opponent has soundproof and then you have hand traps to stop it, you could just have two normal summons, get clip in hand with a name, and then just pass. And it's like, all right, your clip literally does a million things. And then if you have the quick play spell, you have a million more interruptions. Like I don't know how I feel. Soundproof, like on paper, it sounds correct, but then like in play, it doesn't seem that great.
Sure, yeah, no, I've heard a lot of people talking about it, and everyone's just like, "Wow, it's a $20 comment right now." Like, how do we feel about it? But I don't know. Maybe it's like Heat Wave, except like you can play if you're not synchroing, but like it's also like start of MainPhaze 1. Other than that, it's kind of just dead. But like if you draw it, you draw it, I guess. But like if you don't, then it's like extra dead, right? So it's I mean, it's a card. It's a card in the game, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be like all too impactful.
And the crazy thing is too is we have an answer to it. We have Delta in the main. Like if I draw Delta, I'm deltaing your soundproof. If you
Yeah.
ash my Delta, sure. Activate another spell, I'll Delta that. Like I don't think relying on soundproof is actually that good.
Sure. And then like Di-Fi D-Ground, those still pretty rough for you.
Yeah, I mean any floodgate effect that any card sent to graveyard is banished is pretty rough for like any deck right now.
Yeah.
Like Shifter, I hope Shifter's gone. There's no reason for a card like that to be at 1. It's just like, oh, I opened Shifter, I sacked you. Like that's exactly what that card is. It's just like I sack you dot card.
Yeah. No, I understand. Of anybody, I get it. I get it. And then just to kind of wrap things up here too, talking about your new list, where we have the Fedralis, we have the Rotary, we have the new Synchros, we have your targets for the Fedralis. Is this something that you're feeling pretty confident with?
Yeah. The only thing I'm really testing right now is if I want to play Mourner over Imperm, but it just feels like Imperm's a lot better whenever it's on your turn because if you Mourner them on your turn, it has to be Chainlink 1.
Right.
That's like the only upside of Imperm, but Imperm isn't a monster, so like you don't get to make free synchros with it, or you can't add it back. And then it also comes up with the if you set Imperm with the new Solemn card that's coming out in Blazing Dominion.
Card's crazy.
That card is broken.
That card's crazy, bro.
Your opponent activates Cool Tune Synchro. All right, I'll activate it from my hand. I'll reveal Imperm, pay 3k. You banish every single Cool Tune Synchro in your deck. Like that's unreal.
Activate, engage, and cry.
Oh my god, I'm so glad we have an answer to engage. That's broken.
So what's up with the funny spell card in the sideboard?
DD Designator.
Yeah.
That's your best friend with rotary. If you,
Yeah.
it's a card you put in going first for the Psy-frame cards, with the Vanadium reframing, and then you activate rotary. You look at your opponent's hand, and you're like, which card is the problem card? And you're like, all right, activate DD Designator, call it, and then they just remove it. I
Wild.
think that's one of the funniest cards that the OCG is using right now, and I'm all for it.
Do you have any final shout outs? And, thank you so much for joining me today on this video and being able to spread some knowledge about the deck that everyone's about to be playing against.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Eclipse Gaming, all the homeboys there. Shout out to Priority Phase, which is like my locals group chat. And then also, shout out to APOYGO, the YouTube that I'm making. And then shout out to Zelen, the Unshackled Dragon. That card, I absolutely love that card.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. I've been doing a lot more testing with that card lately, and I'm just like, okay, like, I'm down for this. Like, I play it in Azumina Yummy as well. That card is very, very good. So I definitely
That
understand that.
that card with Clip is like bread and butter. Activate Clip, chain Zelen, game.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And again, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Definitely go ahead and check out APOYGO when that drops. And check out my Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Discord, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll catch you all on the next one. Thank you.